Welcome to SVIC Podcast, talk about AI, business, and comedy. If you like real talk on tech, this is your show. We are joined today by Markus. Markus is my best friend, brother, super smart dude, works at Roblox, also is in the car. Yeah, right, that was so bashful. Also is a car enthusiast. You had a YouTube short, right? How was it, 1 million views or something?
It's only 1.5 million, but who's counting?
Only,
Who's
only,
Only 1.5 million.
only peasant scratch. It's nothing. Here I am dying to get like maybe 2,000 views in a video.
No, you guys are doing well. You guys are gonna pass me for subscribers in a little bit. You guys are almost at 5,000, so congrats on that. Early congrats.
Almost. What's the name of your YouTube channel? And stop screwing around with that pen. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's Lowtori, Lowtori.
Lowtori. Okay, gotcha. That's a cool logo. Let me show it real quick so people can check it out. Okay, sweet. You crossed 5,000. Well done. Awesome. I won't say who's that in the video, but thank God she's in more of the videos. She needs to be in more of them. Fantastic. So what is your channel about, real quick? Give us an 80/20.
So my channel is kind of similar to yours, a little bit more comedy focused than specifically car focused, but transitioning more to providing more insights on different everyday enthusiast cars that anyone can want and own, and hopefully to give my perspective as a owner of a few of them.
Sweet. So go to Lowtori, subscribe. Does great work. So let's get into what we always talk about here in tech. Elon, more Elon, followed by a helping of Elon. So let's go into Tesla earnings. Take it away.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure as everyone's seen right now, Tesla earnings did very well. Delivered on like 443,000 vehicles worldwide in Q2, surpassing the expectations of 436,000. And of course, I mean, what do you guys think was the most popular models that were sold?
Definitely a Cybertruck, right?
Cybertruck, 99% of sales. No, Model 3 and Model Y made up 95% of all deliveries. So maybe 5% or maybe like 3% were Cybertrucks. But definitely hearing, I'm not sure about you guys, but I've definitely been hearing from some of my friends just anecdotally that they're actually getting their bids for the deposit to actually buy Cybertrucks now. So it's pretty interesting to actually hear that from a one-on-one basis for people actually that I know who are getting their allotments in, because even for something like the new Priuses, for example, right? My dad put in a allotment for that, and it's still like 6 to 8 months out. So it's really interesting to hear that Cybertrucks are actually now coming out versus like your normal Prius is still taking the better part of like half a year to come out as well. So
is that a sign of increased demand, weakening interest? What do you think's going on here?
Yeah, so I definitely think there's definitely still a big demand. Believe it or not, so I didn't know this, but Toyota, apparently they actually, there's like a set of cars that they don't produce or that they exclusively produce in Japan itself, including the Prius. I think it's like also the Supra, the 86, some of these other cars that you think would be more just like everyday cars, but that are all made in Japan. And I guess there's just a ton of just like orders that still need to be fulfilled. I've probably spoken with maybe like 3 or 4 dealerships just asking, because I was potentially interested in a Supra maybe, and it's an absolute war to get any form of car really, or any form of car that people want from a Toyota dealership perspective. So and there's no bidding process. Basically, you kind of just like, oh, I'm so-and-so dealership, right? And okay, you're forced to get like a really crappy version of the car and a bunch of them, and you're just told to sell it. Or you're just lucky. Maybe you have like an in with someone, maybe whoever the global distributor is, and then you get all the good cars that sell out right away. So yeah.
Wow. Is there a quality difference between American-made Toyotas versus Japanese-made?
Oh no.
I don't know, Joe. Did you have some thoughts?
I know that people will go out of their way to buy not only cars but all kinds of devices, and look for the information that says it was manufactured in Japan at a Japanese factory. And there's a whole bunch of consumers who just won't buy it if it was produced somewhere else, even though it's got a Japanese brand name.
Joe's frozen, or is that me?
I didn't buy his camera from Japan.
No, you didn't. Joe, finish the last 2 seconds.
Oh, I
People
just
won't
said,
buy.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
consumers who will only buy it if it's says it was manufactured in a Japanese plant, in
Wow.
addition to being a Japanese brand. So there's like this, off Japanese brand, not a Japanese brand or a ripoff or whatever, and then there's Japanese brand but manufactured somewhere else, anywhere in Asia, United States, whatever. And then there's Japanese brand manufactured in Japan in a Japanese factory.
I want a picture of Japanese hands touching this car or no deal.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
pretty intense. I mean, people are very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't know there was a backlog still for Priuses. I was just thinking they were just mass produced at this point. It's a known technology, but that's interesting. So you're already teaching me something there. And then now people are getting allotments for Cybertrucks. So far, I mean, go ahead and continue for your train of thought.
Yeah, yeah, no, I was just saying, kind of going back to the Tesla point, as well, right? We're looking at, I guess, originally analysts might revise kind of like the full delivery estimate. I think it's like roughly at like 4.82 million right now, which is up from like around a little under 2 million, I think, from last year as well. And I think this transitions well into kind of like the main topic of what we want to discuss today, but it's really kind of like China's role in Tesla's success, because obviously, there's a huge importance of China on the EV market right now, right? And as of June, Tesla sold 71,000 vehicles in China, contributing over 200,000 vehicles delivered in the first half of the year, which is pretty insane to think about. I mean, maybe this is just like me, like funny in the back of my head, just like Elon and like Xi Jinping hanging out, and it's like, hey, our Teslas have more sparks than our relationship, so let's ignite something together or something. Try to get there in there really early on,
So
and
adorable.
yeah, and honestly, I mean, they're doing a great job. But if we look at in comparison to like BYD, because I think that's the brand that kind of like everyone thinks of, at least on stateside for the Chinese EV side, they in their Q1 they did 426,000 pure electric vehicles, so absolutely dominating like Tesla's market in China itself. But kind of what we'll talk about a little bit later, though, is that there are so many key things that China really owns in the EV market that allows them to just far surpass what we have going on, at least stateside right now. So, but interesting to kind of see that overlap between Tesla's earning calls, how they're doing in China, versus the traditional Chinese market that they have with EVs right now as well.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I want to go into that, but any other lingering thoughts about Tesla you want to talk about regarding his earnings, things that you thought people didn't focus on enough? And second, do you think he's going to be able to deliver on these self-driving taxis by August?
No, honestly, going to the self-driving taxi thing, I don't know. I think we'll see it when I believe it. I think we hear there's a lot of times where I've spoken to people who have the, just from a consumer perspective, the full autopilot feature, and many people still will not use it, or they found like slight faults when they're driving it themselves. And once again, this is pure anecdotally, not even looking at it at like the wider market. These are just people that happen to speak with who own it, maybe going in like different Ubers as well. So I think there's definitely a overall lack of sense of security. I think that comes just from the consumer side, right? And that still exists. So whether or not, I mean, and I can totally see a world too where Elon is just like, we're doing it live. Just get it out. Just get out. Everyone will be fine, right? And it's like, it's okay. I'm sure they'll walk away. They'll find.
We'll do the Ford Pinto strategy with deep enough pockets to litigate all the deaths out. We'll be fine. Keep going.
Exactly.
Speaking of that, Coldy, one of our viewers said years ago, a Japanese car line was brought to the U.S. The car quality was atrocious in comparison to the same line being run in Japan by Japanese workers. I know what Coldy said is true, but he's also the UK, so I'm a little suspicious about that. But he's probably correct on that one. So no, that's interesting with self-driving cars and what's going on there, and how cautious Google has been with Waymo. I used to hear them guff all the time, be like, "You're so slow on this, like hurry up." And then Elon's like, "Hold my beer," and it was just, you see the kill count on the Teslas like every year, another one, and it wasn't like, it was like maybe one or two people or something, and they settled some things out. But then I was like, oh, that's why Waymo went really slow on this one. They want to make sure, they don't want to do the same type of risk. But again, not a car person here. So maybe we can go into BYD versus Tesla. I mean, you have some great thoughts on that. Why don't you go for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, BYD, leading EV maker in China, obviously producing the most out of any other company there. And they're actually having models that start as low as $10,000. Like, believe it or not, like I can't imagine buying a new car for $10,000, let alone a fully electric one. But it's basically making it significantly more accessible for a much broader audience. And the big issue from an American perspective when it comes to our EVs is that we just don't have access to the battery technology and also the battery, I guess, like ingredients, for lack of a better term, right? The lithium, all that stuff, right? And China's been purchasing like tons of land for like the mines for all these like precious resources that are needed to actually make the batteries themselves. So therefore, they're able to produce at such a significant discount versus what we have to do, right, on the U.S. side. So it's, for me at least, if you're looking at it from a pure EV perspective, right, this is great to help get more EVs into more people's hands, because we're even seeing this, like, we're kind of going back to, Toyota once again, right? Oh yeah, this is a great one here. Let's look at this real quick. So you can see here, I mean, there's a ton of different very important resources that are needed to create the battery itself, right? And it's just like playing Settlers of Catan, right? You always want to have the best resources, right? China's playing Settlers of Catan in real life right now, and we're losing. They have the little, like, what is the little statue right now? So everything's cheaper and everything. So that's exactly what's happening, right now.
My nipples are so hard right now, Marcus. Like, you see the type of people I bring on this show. Like, he was able to do a Settlers of Catan reference here, Joe.
Yes,
these people I know. I'm so blessed. Continue, please.
No. And yeah, so that's kind of like where we're looking at right now. So when we see, especially when China really doubling down on some of these initiatives when it comes to EVs, right? So I think they, like, for tons of their public transportation, right, it's all, I'm pretty sure it's all BYD, if not some EV of some sort, right? And it's when we look at it, how can we take that technology and those manufacturers, and why haven't we seen them here more stateside, right? Obviously, there's a huge tariff on imports, resistance from U.S. automakers too. One of the other manufacturers I'll talk about in a little bit, they're called, where's the name? I wrote the name down because I just do not know them directly from my.
Is it Chinese car company?
It is, yeah. The Neo ES8.
Okay.
Is what it's called. Maybe, I don't know, Jordan, maybe you could bring that up too while talking about it.
But Marcus, even with our crazy tariffs, $10,000 is a pretty low price point.
That's true. I think the other hesitancy too, and to your point, Joe, right, is that oftentimes these EVs have tons of cameras on them, right? I mean, even look at like the Tesla's cameras, right? How many? I don't know off the top of my head how many that they have. But on this, at least on this Neo, the ES8, how many cameras do you think are just on this car? Just like looking at it from the outside, how many cameras do you think are on there?
I'll just say 12.
Yeah, I'd
3
go
in
higher.
the front, 3 in the back, 3 in the side. Okay.
Okay, wow, you guys are pretty good. Yeah, I think they counted 11. I think in total. I'll say you guys are good.
But okay, look how beautiful this car is compared to the abortion on wheels that Cybertruck is. Like, this thing, this thing looks clean. Oh my god!
That is a car that does not look like it was designed in Minecraft.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Roblox show. Minecraft's my company's competitor.
Oh, sorry, right.
I see.
Okay, random. Okay, funny side story. Can you tell me about? You said one of your colleagues has issues wearing Roblox merch for interesting reason why.
Oh yeah. So even myself too, I have to be careful wearing it around because it immediately just attracts a bunch of little kids to asking you for stuff, and all of a sudden you're like the Pied Piper, and you're just like, oh, no, don't talk to me, please. Like, I have no Robux to give you, please.
Yeah, because you're telling me he was like a guy in his 40s. He was walking by a park, and he had a Roblox shirt on. He was by himself, and all these kids started grouping around him. He was like, oh no, this is not good. Him.
Exactly. I was wondering, Jordan.
Oh no, Chris Hansen's here.
Yeah, like, why don't you have a seat on the swing set? And they're like, going back and forth.
Exactly. Okay.
Marcus, you started down the road of explaining how many cameras were on these cars, though.
Yeah.
What did you have in mind?
Oh yeah, there's definitely like a hesitancy with what that data or what these manufacturers are doing with that data, right?
Right.
We even see it at a much smaller perspective, like going back to Toyota once again, right? They They have a car called the GR86, right? They partnered with Subaru on that. Subaru's technology is called eyesight, and basically what that does is 2 cameras shooting out the front that tells you if, like, you're going out of the lane or something's coming, pre-braking, braking, all of that. Part of that, though, is that it's always collecting data, right? And there's like a specific area in order for you to opt out of this, but of course, it's not very visible to the naked eye, right? Or to someone who isn't looking, right? My dad actually just bought this car instead of the Prius, and which super nice car, really great car,
Hell yeah,
actually.
dude.
But he was like saying, "Hey, I don't want anyone having my data based upon a car that really should just be, manual, just a really fun driver's car to have, right?" But we're even seeing this creep into performance cars that have traditionally been very anti-technology, right? So then when you extrapolate that, looking at that towards general EV manufacturers as a whole, even Tesla, right, is that it's always taking in data, and it's very helpful if like someone hits your car when you're not next to the car in Sentry mode, right? That's very helpful. But what is all the data being used otherwise? And of course, BYD is saying like, oh, we're not using it for espionage. Of course, we're just using it for, XYZ, when, who knows, God, for what reason that they're actually using it for.
So is that really discouraging consumers at retail?
So I don't, for Tesla, I don't believe so, but I think there's just like a natural hesitancy for American consumers if BYD ends up making that jump to come over here.
I mean, these are the same people that do web searches and get cookied to death and have, pixel trackers, and they use their Safeway card when they shop, and their credit card company reports everything they buy. I mean, do they think they're not being tracked now? I'm confused.
You're saying we're not being tracked right now, Joe? Is that what you're trying to say?
We're always being tracked, like nonstop. I mean, just everything we're doing.
That's true. I think when someone is able to save, a few bucks from their, 7-Eleven
they give it all away.
Card. Yeah, exactly, for $2, right?
Yeah.
I need that free taquito or whatever it is. So maybe we'll have to see. I think this is we're a very interesting point of time right now where we can't deny where the car market is going, right? It's definitely very EV heavy, very EV focused, where there's just going to be a fact of life. It's just how will this data end up being monitored, end up being used. But I think, to your point, Joe, right, it's such a low barrier to entry, even though we have like these tariffs, and a lot of American automotive companies don't like it, and lobbyists, and I'm sure eventually there's going to be a point of time where we're going to be able to see, Chinese EV cars enter into the market.
Yeah. Excellent. How much time do you have, Marcus? Do you have a hard out at 1:00? Because you're on a roll. I want to give you more time.
No. I'm good.
Yes, Joe. Do you have like 5 additional minutes? Or
Keep
Joe,
going.
if you want to bounce, it's good. Our comments. We have The Last Huntsman says there are very few laws and legislation in America preventing the sale of U.S. drivers' data. It's not even on my radar. Me and Joe are so focused on SaaS and everything. We're not even thinking, oh, wait a minute. These cars are basically computers, because during the COVID crunch, they couldn't sell cars because they couldn't get chips anymore. And I was like, oh, wow, the time has changed. Second thing, Cold Analytics says, FYI, if you update your sat nav, I don't know what a sat nav is.
Satellite navigation.
Okay. Your prior drive history is upload to the manufacturer's server. Interesting. Okay, cool. Marcus, so you were talking about cameras on these cars and whatnot, and I mean, continue with the BYD, Tesla, or Chinese electric cars war. Love to hear more about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can kind of like take a little bit of a zoom out and look overall in terms of like China's dominance in the EV market. And we touched a little bit upon that. And then lastly, I'll kind of transition to, if anyone out there listening is a car enthusiast, happy to kind of talk about that more now, about how even the Chinese EVs are starting to enter into the enthusiast market, right? Which I think is very, very interesting as a whole. So, but looking at kind of just China's dominance in the EV market, right? Overall, China has provided somewhere around $29 billion in subsidies, cheap loans, favorable policies from 2009 to 2022 for EVs specifically, right? And kind of I was talking about before, there's a very strong local market, very strong sense of pride, and BYD specifically, just using them as an example, because they use them for their public transport fleets. And I think in Shenzhen, they had over 16,000 of their electric buses are actually by BYD, thanks to these subsidies and these different incentives to help provide more incentive for innovation and improving battery life, improving quality. And this even extends to consumers, right? I know for us here in in the Bay Area, the what do you call it? The fast track lane is really a joke, right? It was cool,
How dare you? How dare you?
imagine, you remember before, I think what it was like 10 years ago, right? People were fighting each other, like peeling off the little sticker, the little green one, the access OK. Do you guys remember that? Like that was like a big deal back in the day.
Well, I mean,
The whole thing
before
about-
that, it was a commuter lane. So they got all these laws passed to add these commuter lanes, and the rule was they had to actually physically add a new lane to the highway, right? And you had to have multiple people riding in the car, so it was like carpooling and all that. Then they introduced you could have a hybrid and get a sticker. That's what you're describing. Then people started stealing stickers to get in the lane. And wealthy people would just buy a hybrid and pose that they were environmentally conscious, but they really just wanted to get to work faster.
Exactly. That's why Jordan had his big Hummer with his like scratched off
That's
Access
right.
OK sticker in the back.
Exactly, and on the hood.
And then it was pure electric, replacing the hybrids. And now it's just basically I forget what they call it in London, but it's essentially a load balancing scheme. You pay extra, you get to drive in that lane.
Congestion. It was a congestion tax. And
Yes,
that's downtown in London. Congestion tax. Yeah. The UK people can probably speak about that. Let's see what they say in the chat.
Oh yeah, you're the one guy from the UK probably has something to say about that.
Pretty much. You're right. Right.
But yeah, so or no, go ahead, Jordan. Sorry.
No, you go. You're cooking. Continue.
Oh yeah, no. That's what I was going to say though. But unlike the Bay Area, fast track lane that's like basically unusable unless you have like tons of money or you're okay with doing it. I feel like even if I was rich, I'm not sure about you guys. You guys are probably rich, but I'm not sure how.
I was going to ask you for $20.
If I was even like the super rich person, multi-billionaire, I still would have a gripe with paying the fee to just go from like 2 exits. That's going to cost me like $5 for like half a mile of travel into the fast track lane. Anyways, that's enough of me talking about that.
We already paid to pave the roads, and our gas tax is going to our. Okay, this is not a political show.
Yeah, exactly. Trust me, I could go on for hours. No. Anyway, unlike that. There's actually like significant push towards consumer incentives for EVs, which include subsidies, favorable parking, traffic conditions, all of that, right? And of course, maybe it's not as good as everyone says it to be. I've never actually gone to China to actually see the lanes themselves, but the thing is, though, is that there's making strides there either way, right? And then, as we talked about too, it's like the supply chain control, because the global supply chain for EV is for the battery components specifically. Is controlled, by China. Or they control significant portions of this, right? And China ultimately not only takes the actual, I guess like minerals or I forget like the lack of better, the minerals themselves like lithium, cobalt, nickel, right? But they also refine them as well. So they not only own specifically the mines themselves, but also the refining processes in order to make it into something that can, of course, be eventually used in the batteries themselves. So when you look at this, right, from almost start to finish, there is just like a huge stranglehold on the battery components nowadays by China right now. So it's putting us in a disadvantage overall as in America.
Yeah,
so
that's putting it mildly.
Level of vertical integration that we would kill for, and so Tesla doesn't have that right now, so that puts them at a disadvantage.
And also going to your point about the popularity of such cars at such a low price point. I mean, here they would be like a kit car. Like people would just go bananas customizing them and having fun with them if they could get them for $10,000.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, that would be perfect. I can't even imagine what the world would look like, right? At least here in America, if there was such a low barrier to entry. Like it's like the possibilities are endless, right? I mean, I think we'd all be, riding on some 22s or something, all of us in our $10,000 cars, right? And going
we
down
all have spinner rims on our EVs.
Exactly.
Right. I remember back in my day, back in college, I was going to get a car, and it was a Toyota Yaris, costed like $8,000 or so, and it didn't look didn't look that bad, but $10,000 EV in today's market, oh my God, that thing would sell like hotcakes around here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I wanted to transition to about how now this is affecting the car enthusiast market, right? Because this is definitely the world that I live in for my channel at least. So Unless you guys had any thoughts on
No, go
the
for it.
previous that you want to
No,
talk about.
Cook, you're doing good.
Awesome, thank you. So it's very interesting because kind of similar to the AI space, you have the very popular channels, right? And I think as time goes on, and I'm sure you've probably seen this with even your favorite YouTubers, just generally, you see some that sell out, some that end up, going like Jordan, not you, Joe, but Jordan for sure. I can tell. He gave away his usual background in order to try to make it a little bit more safe. That's how I know he's
right.
selling out.
That's a sign of my downfall.
Yeah, exactly. The Unabomber shed wasn't good enough anymore. So
No, it wasn't.
but we see that very popular, right, in just YouTubers nowadays. And now what we're seeing is that even creep into the automotive enthusiast space. So give you an example, very popular car YouTube show or a car YouTube channel called Donut. They've been around for a while, like almost 9 million subscribers, right?
Wow.
They recently released a video on the Neo ES8. And I was like watching it fully and reading the copy, and I remember thinking like, wow, they are only saying like nice things about this car, right? There's like no bad things at all, right? And in the comments, and I was like, maybe it's just me, right? Maybe it's just Markus being skeptical, right? Whatever. I haven't sold out, so I'm jealous, right? Where's my money? So then I go into the comments to go take a look, and everyone's saying like, wow, this is like, you guys are like selling out, right? This is just like a pure like play just to get money. It's like, this is just an ad that you're trying to disguise as an actual video, blah, 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 right? And even people from that channel have actually left. Like a lot of the main folks from that channel have left. I don't know why. I haven't watched the videos yet.
Main folks such as a talent recording videos or just the main supporters?
Oh, sorry. The main people, like the actual like hosts of the show have left. Yeah. Like 2 or 3 of the more popular ones have actually left recently. And like I said, there's a video. I haven't watched it yet. I have to hear why they have. But it's just kind of interesting to hear because you're looking at this from, and I would totally do this, right? If you're a new manufacturer, right, Chinese or not, I would definitely look into, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to enter into the influencer space, right? Because even though if they only represent maybe 1% of all car buyers in America, they have a significantly higher amount of just like mind penetration when it comes to how buying decisions are made to people who look up. And these could be people who love cars or people who are just like, hey, I just want to see a review on the Neo ES8, right? So ultimately, what it looks like is that they're getting paid to do this. And of course, because in traditional like automotive reviews, like you are just like on your, hands and knees praying, like, please let me drive this new, like 911, or please let me drive this new Toyota, right? And if you have connections with, your best friend's son's cousin, right? And then you get to know the person who actually leads the reviews, then that's how you kind of like get into the business, right? Versus this is way different on the other side where now it's like, hey, take my money, review my car, but there's even better stuff that actually happens. So in these interviews, they actually typically, right, you imagine a car review, you get the car, they give you the keys, go review it, come back, right? What do you guys think the difference is here in these reviews?
Did they go to the place where the manufacturer was and only drive it on their track or something?
Close, very close, but no.
They also say, and also, you know what? The Cultural Revolution, Chairman Mao had the right thought about getting this country to leap forward. Don't listen about the millions that were killed.
Yeah, no, got to toe the line, Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. Continue. What was it, Markus?
So basically, they actually have a representative in the car at all times. So if you look at the review, there's someone in the car. And this is way different. Like if you guys watch a ton of car reviews, it's very strange to have someone in the car.
It's a CCP political commissar inside a video that's being aired in America. Like, this is, oh my God.
And if you look, it's not like, the guy's in the back, looking like this, at least like trying to stay out of the video. He's like in it. Like you can see him like laughing at jokes and going like, ha, 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 ha. Like when they're like cracking jokes and everything. And it's just weird. I'm like, hey, like I'm just saying it's definitely different. It's just very interesting with how it's like entering the channels more. But I have to say though, the actual car itself, I don't know, maybe I'm being sold here because I was watching the video. I'm like, oh, it looks pretty cool. But it does actually look pretty interesting. And I think the way that that the Chinese automotive manufacturers versus American manufacturers, their take on cars are, especially interior wise, is way different from each other. And with like the main thing being, and I'm not sure, Jordan, if you could like pull this up there on the Neo ES8, there's like a little like bubble basically, and has a little LCD screen. There's like a name for it, but it's like their version of Alexa that exists in the car with you. And it's in the way that and I'm sure they're like tracking information to a certain degree, right? But it makes it so cute where you don't even find a problem with it, basically. Like, to me, I think it's like, honestly, to me, like my internal like human brain, like, oh, things with big eyes and small, mouth are super, super cute, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of see it. You see that little like above the tablet up
Oh my
on
god! Yeah, does it talk and everything?
yeah, it talks to you. Yeah. And it like plays the guitar when you're listening to music, and it's like all smiley and everything. And yeah, it can do a ton. It can do a ton. It's crazy. But like that's like such a different take on the use of AI within cars, because now you do it in a very approachable way that people can really relate to, rather than other ways.
That's the way they should be doing it. They shouldn't be doing, let's try to do the uncanny valley, like what Facebook did for the metaverse conference calls, and Vision Pro did by making AI avatars that look like a human. And it's like, no, this is weird. No, instead you should lean into that they are AI, make them cute and cuddly, and people are more willing to adopt it. But I wish it was American companies that were doing it and not the CCP. But I mean, either way though, if they're producing a fantastic car, and we should look at the car, the mirrors of the car. But then it raises questions of what are the laws regarding the data, and where is the data going to, and whatnot. And it feels like we're back into a whole goddamn TikTok conversation again.
I was really taken off guard by all the talk about tariffs in the U.S. And now that you're describing this, Marcus, I sort of get a feeling for why they're talking about tariffs so much. I mean, the picture you're painting is that there's a bunch of innovation happening in China. There's a whole bunch. Did we lose him?
He should join back. Give him a second. This would be the CCP. Took him out. Last Huntsman said, there's a thing called ULEZ in London. Let's see what Marcus says right now. Can you log back on? He said the Chinese got me. Okay, so we were talking about congestion tax, and last time says ULEZ is ultra low emission zone. You have to pay if you don't have an environmentally friendly car. It's lopsidedly affected those who don't have a ULEZ compliant car. So the government added a trade-in scheme, but the trade-in wasn't enough to get a compliant car. So a lot of people lost access. So ULEZ is $12.50 per day, plus you got to pay the congestion charge of $15 on top. God, nice. Why does it make an anti-poor people tax? I use anti-poor middle class tax. It's terrible.
That's pretty much what it is, right? Pay to play.
Exactly. Coley says, I once worked for BMW Research. Our automotive software quality was, of course, excellent, but we suspected other firms' software. I really do expect to hear of EVs catching fire, et cetera, due to software bugs. Okay, so let's give Marcus, I know we're running late, so Marcus says 1 second, but finish your thought, Joe, because you were saying, there's all this tariff talk, but now we're seeing that these cars are actually pretty darn good, and they're actually more advanced, kind of on par, more advanced than American cars, and so there must be
at a much lower price point, right?
Exactly.
I mean, if they can bring very nice cars with innovative features that are all electric at such a low price point, they're going to be wildly popular. And
exactly,
of course, politically, that's a disaster. Well, for some parties more than others, but just generally speaking, that's a disaster. You already have enough problems in the American car market with the American car companies and their less intense competition with Tesla. Teslas are still more expensive. They're all electric and they're getting towards autonomy, but the domestic car manufacturers aren't even in the ball game.
Exactly. I mean, with a Tesla, it's like, okay, it's more high end, it's not as much production as we had. They're not in the low medium tier.
Right.
And then you have these Chinese companies like, hey, we can make the same car even better for $10,000.
Yeah, if they showed up with something reasonable as an all electric at a say $20,000 price point, even with crazy tariffs, that would be devastating for the American car manufacturers.
Exactly. Doesn't this reminiscent of the 1980s when the Japanese first came in? It was like that all over again.
Well, the Japanese did have a similar impact, but they came in not only at a lower price point, but with much smaller cars, with much reduced sort of, safety and space. So they made a trade-off, right? They went after a different point in the market, but it was devastating for the American car manufacturers. And the U.S. carved out this weird niche of trucks as military vehicles that sort of protected the American car manufacturers and gave them a place to make money.
Exactly. So it's interesting to see echoes of that happening again, but this time with the Chinese. And
Well,
it's coming. Go ahead.
What caught me off guard was they were just suddenly, everyone was talking about, heavy tariffs on Chinese cars. And I was kind of like, well, okay, well, where is this coming from? And I think what Markus really connected the dots, right? He's like, well, the reason why that's happening is because they're terrified of what's coming.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of new cars that are very inexpensive and that are in many ways very innovative. And if they were suddenly allowed to ship those cars in the United States with reasonable tariffs, it would be devastating.
Yeah. I mean, we already have a car glut as it is. And then you all of a sudden have the Chinese coming in with something better and more affordable. It's just, and whose constituents is going to hurt? The Democrats' main constituents, which are the unions. So do what you can with those tariffs. Now, it will be interesting to see if Trump, let's say Trump wins or something, if he is aligned even harder and saying, no, we should even increase the tariffs higher. And that would be interesting to see, because typically it's been Republicans before the Trump era were very more, laissez-faire.
Yeah.
Just make sure,
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think Trump will be likely to maybe even double down, but he would also view it as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
He would immediately be, talking up the tariffs, because that's what he likes to do, right? Create a bargaining point. And then he would turn to the Chinese and be like, okay, well, we could reduce these tariffs if I get something in return.
Exactly. And he's done that in his business career. You make an outlandish request and people are, what the hell is this? And then that anchors you to that outlandish request. And you're like, okay, well then I guess I'll move myself up. And that's how a lot of real estate deals work. I know real estate investors, all they do is just send out bullshit offers in apartment complexes 24/7 because they need to get a deep discount. And some people take it eventually. A lot of the time people laugh at them, but eventually when times get tough, they turn to them and say, hey, is that offer still good? And they're like, yeah, but at a lower price. Anyways, Joe, we kept you longer. I appreciate you for joining. All y'all, thank you for joining and watching. Markus, he absolutely crushed it. We're going to show his site one more time. I hope you all who are supporters caught our episode on Peter Thiel talking about AI and NVIDIA. If not, become a supporter. You can access it right now. $5 a month gets you in, plus 34 other premium episodes. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and we'll talk to you all later. Peace.
Peace.